I am Chun Li, a journalism student of University of East Anglia in the UK. This year is the 100th anniversary of the First World War, and I have been on a study trip to Belgium looking into the topic of conflict and journalism. During the trip, I visited the Flanders Fields Museum, read the names of the missing persons, ran the way the soldiers did in the trench, commemorated the dead, and attended the conference Journalists in Conflict.
This visual reflects my experiences of this trip and my journey to learn more about conflicts and journalism.
The trip started in Ypres, a city in the western part of Belgium. Ypres has another name, the City of Peace. However, this peaceful city once was the very center of major conflict, artillery fire. Ypres occupied a strategic position during the First World War. It was in the line of march of the German army making the way into France through Belgium. The city was surrounded at three sides and was almost destroyed in the bombardings. After the war, the city was rebuilt as closely to the original design as possible, with the main square at the center, tower, and closed hall, which now houses the Flanders Fields Museum. The museum is located on the second floor of the closed hall. It presents the story of the First World War in the Western Flanders front regions. Items on display include weapons, uniforms, medals, and soldiers' personal effects, which demonstrate the cruelty of the war. But these are just items. This is not what makes this war so immense. It was the amount of people who died in the war.
Here is Flanders Fields Museum, a museum to remember the First World War and the people in the war.
More than 600,000 died in the battles of Ypres. The injured were countless. Beyond the wounded and killed, every living man at the time suffered. Those men at war represent families and communities. The death of those men affects many generations to come. We need to remember those who left their lives at war. And this is the place for the commemoration, the main gate. At 8 o'clock every evening, the bugle call's last post can be heard. As I walked through the gate, I couldn't help noticing how long the name list is. More than 54,000 were missing in the war, and all their names are carved in the walls of the gate. At this moment, these were only names to me, but this changed when I visited the cemetery. Hook Military Cemetery is the second largest British and Commonwealth military cemetery in Belgium. 9,901 members of Commonwealth were buried here, and 883 for other nationalities. During the war, this area was used as a casualty cleaning station because it was close to the front line and out of the range of German artillery. In the exhibition rooms, through these devices in the war, you can hear the stories of the soldier who died in battlefields in 4 languages. Hearing these stories, you could feel the sorrow and despair. These names became people reflecting real lives lost in the flames of war. What really surprised me was that at the corner of the cemetery, I found a number of graves of Chinese laborers. During the war, these Chinese cleaned the battlefields, dug graves and trenches. It really confused me why these Chinese came across half of the globe to Europe to get involved in such a war. Were they volunteers to help the Allies, or were they shanghaied to the front line? I'm sorry, but I am a journalism student. It's my job to question things, and I couldn't help wondering what has happened to my fellow Chinese lying here.
So you see, even this part of Europe is the main battlefield of the First World War. People from countries at the other side of the world still involved. In the days of warfare, killing spread all over the world. Media and communication have made the world a global village, and what the role journalists can or should play in conflicts have become a universal responsibility.
On the last day of the trip, I attended the conference Journalists in Conflict. Experts in academia, journalism, and media gave talks on war reporting, human rights, ethics, democracy, and accountability from their own perspectives. After the conference, I started to think about journalists, how and where they report the conflicts, and the risks to cover conflicts. Camille Lepage, a 26-year-old French photojournalist, was killed in Central African Republic on May 15, 2014. She was one of the many journalists killed in conflicts. According to the data of the Committee to Protect the Journalists, since 1992, over 880 journalists were killed around the world. I appreciate the courage of journalists who cover wars, but at the same time, I wonder what they hope to achieve. The reason for conflicts, especially wars, is conflicting national interests. What politics does is to maintain what they have and possibly grab more. In this case, journalism is not likely to stop fighting directly. And there is another problem. Since journalists report conflicts for the audience at home, and conflicts take place far away, will a British man really be concerned about conflicts in an African country that he has never heard about? These questions troubled me for quite some time. As a journalist to be, I even began to question my study choice and my future. On the ferry back to the UK, as I stared at the horizon, I recalled a scene that I had seen in the Flanders Fields Museum, where a father was telling his son the story about battles in Ypres. And then I found the answer to my question. What is war reporting for? It's for the next generation and generations after. It's necessary to let them know that the world can be a better place without conflict, without war.
Among the visitors are not only adults, but also children, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters. It's not about what we can learn from war, but how to stop it, how to protect the world from war.
Creating peace is hard, and maintaining it is even harder. As the time goes by, people around the world are more connected than ever before. It's a must to let people be aware that peace is important to every one of us, no matter where we live on this planet, and we all have a part to play.